How can we innovate faster in medical technology? This was the challenge that Spencer Jones set out to solve with his companies Exo MedTech and MedTech Vendors. Spencer is a serial entrepreneur and very passionate about innovation in medical technology. In this episode, you're going to learn how collaborative platforms might be the solution to the inventor in the silent lab problem, how lean development methods and customer feedback is crucial to develop the right medical device and to get it industrialized in time and not have 1.5 years of dead time. And in the end, we're going to talk extensively about AI and how it can be disrupting our documentation and medtech development work. If you want to make your medical device more sustainable, there's a link in the description for you. And here's our discussion. Hi, Spencer, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lucas. I'm excited to get into it today.
Yes. So the topic why I brought you on is innovation and innovation speed in medtech. And this is the challenge that you also see and that you try to tackle with your companies. Just tell us very quickly about Exo MedTech and MedTech Vendors and what you do, and what do you think, how we can really overcome the challenge of speed to market in medtech.
Yeah, no, thank you. So Exo MedTech, we, founded it, we'd worked on it for honestly about 18 months to 2 years, but launched it in the summer of 2024. But it's really two things. It's community and it's training. So we hosted on a community platform called Circle. Really, really nice. But it's got, the community side that we can, we do workshops and live events. You can look through kind of the member directory, right? And it's very searchable. So if you need to find someone specifically to help you solve a problem, you can search there. There's a couple different spaces to post in, almost think like a Discord almost, right? Where you've got different, or a Slack where you've got channels that are dedicated to certain things. So there's spaces you can post in, whether you're wanting to ask questions, get feedback, just general discussion, or even hiring, if you're hiring or if you're looking for work, that kind of thing. And that community element is really what we've seen has been a big powerful piece of it. And one quick example, I'll get onto the rest of the stuff, but say you're dealing with an injection molding issue, right? And you're trying to solve this problem. You could just post it in there. And there's, a dozen mechanical engineers and founders that have dealt with this type of stuff, and even some CDMOs and whatnot. And so people can just pile in the comments and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about the mold temp? What about your material? What about the colorant you're using? What's the carrier molecule there, right? So it's just a kind of a safe space to be able to work through ideas, work through problems and challenges, share resources. We say, it's just a massive exchange of value. That's what the feed is designed to be. But on the training side, we've got dozens of downloadable templates and tools and resources. So whether it's IP related or business plan related or customer discovery templates or bench testing protocol templates, you know what I mean? There's a ton of stuff like that, budget and forecast templates where, if you're a clinical innovator, you probably had zero formal training on how to build a 5-year budget and forecast model or pro forma, right? So those things are really, really helpful. And then kind of the centerpiece of it all is the playbook, which it's a 45 lesson, I think maybe 48 lessons now, but it's basically a training course. And each lesson is dedicated to a specific topic, whether it's IP, regulatory strategy, sizing the problem, quantifying it clinically, capital strategy, prototyping, going through the manufacturing, request for quote process, right? So that's Exo MedTech in a nutshell. We've got about 300 members in the community, and it's just been really awesome to see people make valuable connections, whether it's potential clients or potential co-founders or partners, or just kind of, I call them internet friends, you know what I mean? Where you're all interested in the same stuff and you're dealing with the same challenges, right? And that's very valuable, especially in a somewhat isolating, industry, which is medtech innovation at early stage. And then quickly on MedTech Vendors, the Exo MedTech was really designed for kind of the innovator and entrepreneur and kind of earlier stage device team, pre-seed to Series A or so. But then we realized we wanted to create something that helped kind of bridge that gap between really good, high quality medtech vendors. And when I say vendors, I mean CDMOs, contract manufacturers, testing services, design and development groups, regulatory quality, you name it, right? So we created MedTech Vendors, and it's in essence a platform where device teams, whether that's at a large company, mid-sized company, or early stage company, can come in. We have an agentic AI interface where you chat with it of, hey, I'm building blank and I'm looking for a CDMO that has X, Y, and Z capabilities and, this specific expertise. And the agent will chat with you, kind of learn a little bit about your project, the FDA product code, specific, any more capabilities and services you need, timelines, all that stuff. And then it auto builds the project details for you and then suggests, a list of vendors that are kind of force ranked by objective metrics in terms of who would be a good fit for you. And so we made it incredibly easy to find and evaluate and engage really good vendors that would be a great fit for your device project.
Okay. So stepping back a little bit to the problem, what's actually the problem that's currently facing the MedTech industry? Why are products taking so damn long to get to market?
How much time you got, Lucas?
I got all the time in the world.
I'd say one of the main ones, to me at least, a lot of the people that are doing the innovating are clinical, right? They're seeing these clinical problems. They understand clinically what needs to be done to solve it. But those clinical people, at least in the US, right, our education system, you can go all the way through med school, right, or nursing school or some other, clinical care specialty school. And you'll never have a class on business, right? You'll never have a class on anything related to, marketing or business development or, even to some degree communications, right? And so when you get into this environment of now I've got this innovative idea and I need to commercialize it, I need to manufacture it, I need to find these groups, there seems to be just a knowledge gap there. So that's one thing, right? And then on the flip side, these contract manufacturers, people think, I feel like a lot of innovators think, well, I'll just get with the right contract manufacturer and they'll do everything for me. You know what I mean? And it's they may be able to do the things that you need done in kind of a rudimentary sense, but at the end of the day, if you are not the product expert and really driving things forward and then understanding why decisions are being made about a certain manufacturing process or a certain material or a certain surface finish, right? And you can't, really kind of be your own project manager and advocate in an engineering and manufacturing capacity, those projects really sputter out, right? They move slow. So, I mean, that's one reason. I think the capital cost, because the processes that MedTech innovation uses are relatively arcane and they haven't really advanced as much as other industries in terms of the processes and the tools that they're using. I think that's another big piece of it. But yeah, I mean, I'd say when you've been a part of good projects, Lucas, there's always whether it's a guy or girl, right? That glue guy that can translate the clinical and user needs into engineering inputs and outputs, verification testing. They understand the materials and the process that be used. They understand where the part line needs to be, right? Where, if they need an undercut, if they need a 2K mold or a 3K mold, right? They understand kind of the translation of all those things. And it's just really, really rare that the innovator that's patenting these things, right, or creating it is that person. So in lieu of that person, you get this kind of almost speaking two languages or not able to communicate between the innovators and the CDMOs. I think that's one of the biggest things. And again, that training and education in XO, that's what we're trying to do is weaponize these innovators with better tools and better training so that they can be that person for their team.
Of a few thoughts on that. So number one is, what immediately came to mind is that the clinical people, the surgeons, the physicians, they usually have no clue. And that's not in a mean way. They have no clue what it takes to get a medical device to market. It's just I buy it and it works and it's approved. And that's all they care about. This is 5 years of R&D, regulatory quality, millions and millions going into these products in order to get them safe and effective. That is virtually unknown of in the, let's say, medical world. And then secondly, the MedTech companies, and that's probably also a little mean, is they know their, let's say, field, their specialty. So if you're selling cardiac catheters, you know about cardiac catheters. But if you want to bring something that is new and revolutionary to the market, they usually have no idea about the clinical. So the R&D people, they're usually in this silent room engineering, and they're just figuring out this new feature, new benefit, 10% more cost effective in their silent lab room. And that there's no communication, there's no feedback loop going on there. And then they get it to market in 3 to 5 years. And then they see there's a very simple mistake that makes it not work. And I'm a very, very big fan of the Eric Ries lean startup method. So get a very fast feedback on your product as fast as possible so that you can improve it, because you're virtually all the time, you're wrong about the first prototype. It's never going to be the first prototype that hits. It's going to be an improvement and rapid iterative improvement approach that works the best. What's your take on that?
I mean, I agree with all that, but on the last part specifically, I see a lot of companies that like they think that the first product they get through the FDA is going to be the product that gets them acquired, right? And it may be like the same like broad product, but it should change. Like most companies that get acquired, their Gen 2, I think it's more common with Gen 3, but it's at least their Gen 2 or Gen 3 of the device is what actually has broad commercial success and then gets acquired. And I think people don't budget for that. People don't plan for that. And they're not getting, like you said, enough rapid feedback from end users and customers over that course of time to be able to understand what changes they really need to make, right? They're worried about kappas, and that's the feedback that they get, right? Did it break? Did it injure? It's like, no, like you want to make this as good as possible. And like, obviously you can't be like filing a new, trying to iterate every 3 months, right? Like you have to be really like staged about it and intentional. But no, I totally agree on that point. And like, I was talking to somebody that worked in M&A for one of the big, probably top 10 MedTech companies in globally. And, we were talking about how it's like the number of physicians or clinical innovators, right, that could explain to you that are trying to go through this process and really innovate, could explain to you how an injection mold tool works, or like why it's important to, the substrate and the material selection there and wetting the injection, like the parameters around injection molding, or CNC machining, or how ultrasonic welding works, or whatever. How many of them could explain that or have ever seen that, whatever? And on the flip side, how many engineers at a device company, right, have ever seen a surgical case, right? And it's kind of crazy because it's like not that many, I would bet, right? But like the analogy I use is like, that'd be like a Formula One engineer, right? A Formula One car engineer never seeing a race, right? Like, how are they going to know what to do, right? How are they going to know what to build? Like, what's informing the decisions they're making? And so I think like that's where when you have that breakdown where the engineers have never seen a case, they know very little about, right? Or they don't know, they've never seen it firsthand, or they kind of don't have that really rich understanding of the clinical environment and the clinical use case. Like all they have to go off of is what this clinician is giving them. But the clinician doesn't know how to speak the language and translate that into the engineering inputs that they need, right? Like and I just always thought like, yeah, engineers should be in cases and seeing cases. Like clinical innovators should be at manufacturing facilities, understanding the processes and the capabilities available to them and why you would choose one or the other, right? So anyways, totally agree.
I'll have to weave that together a little bit with also other conversations we had. So I had recently Jim Surek on, and he's a commercialization guy. And his take was like that your sales is going to be the eyes and the ears of the company in the field. And then they're going to learn a lot from what they see in the field and what the physicians really want. And the second thing that came to mind is Axel Böse. He's a clinical innovator. He's an engineer. He is like one of those rare glue people who can really make a device happen. And he shared this insight in a podcast where he had the physician like bent over during his surgery, like in a very weird posture. And he asked him, why are you doing this? And he's like, the device doesn't let me turn it, so I have to bend over in order to make it happen. And he's like, I can just make a hinge here and that works. And then it was like it was completely obvious. It's not a difficult solution. It's like, I make a hinge here, it works. And that is, you only see that problem if you go to the field. And on the other hand, the CDMOs that I talk to is like, 90% of our engineering is directed towards getting design that is not fit for manufacturing out of the device. It's like usually the device companies come to me and say, I want to make this. And they're like, this is not injection moldable. I can't do that. It's like, you'll have to adjust the device so that it's like my OEE doesn't go to shit. I want the process running smooth because you want 10 million pieces a year and I want not like 2 million of them to be scrap because my process doesn't work. So, and it's very, very apparent if you bring those people together and they just talk for 10 minutes, it's solved. But it's just about the domain specific knowledge that the other one doesn't have. And I think therefore collaboration is one of the key elements, and maybe a very difficult question because coordination and cooperation has a trade-off. So it's going to be, if you have too many people from too many multidisciplinary or too many disciplines working together, you end up getting big corporate. So everyone has their say in the project decision and nothing gets done because everybody's stuck discussing and stuck aligning. And then on the other hand, if you don't have like this very broad knowledge, you can't really you're going to go into a different in a wrong direction. So either if you collaborate with a lot of people, you're going to go certainly in the right direction, but the speed is reduced. And if you have a smaller team, you might go off in the wrong direction, but very fast. And how do you really coordinate all of this? It's probably a difficult question to answer.
No, it is. I mean, whenever, as you're talking through that, I'm almost thinking there's two sides of the table, right? And they're each bringing, their own set of disciplines, like you said, right? The teams that I've seen that have navigated that complexity well, it feels like there's almost an unspoken, but sometimes, kind of almost written sometimes, but structure of hey, the team discusses and then the team will have a recommendation and this person has kind of the final say on the clinical innovator side. And there's a pace at which they move forward and they don't kind of languish around decisions, right? And then on the flip side, it's hey, for the stage that we're at, we're going to have mechanical engineers driving design, have kind of the first say, quality and DFM get their inputs. It goes back to the design engineers and then they have kind of the final say. You see what I'm saying? But people where it's that process is really defined and it's hey, here's my input and then the decision's made in an organized fashion. I've seen that work really well because then it comes to a point in time where it's quality may need to have the final say, right? Or operations may need to have the final say. So I think you got to get the inputs, but you can't let it be this almost fully democratic process because you said, it'll bog it down.
Yeah, that I think that is decision making is a very key part of it. And I think I really like I don't know if it's really the Amazon rule, but it's if it's reversible, the decision, just take it, just make a decision. And then if it's not reversible, you have to evaluate it further. So building a facility for 2 billion, it's yeah, we better evaluate that a little more because it's if concrete is poured, you can't reverse that. But if it's yeah, we're gonna do the meetings 15 minutes earlier, that's reversible. If it doesn't work, we're just gonna reverse that thing and do it otherwise if it doesn't work. So I really like fast decision making. But the question is tools you do help to bring people together to actually facilitate faster innovation, because I think the speed of innovation is one of the things limiting. Number one is patient outcome. And number two is what I'm very passionate about is making healthcare more sustainable, because it's changing a medical device is really a pain because it takes so long and it takes so much money to bring to market. Therefore, it's what's inhibiting this transition. And I'm very interested in how to make this better.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in terms of the innovation and speed to market side, that being the hindrance and how we make that better and how what we're doing helps with that, right? So I really think that the vendors that you select during your innovation process are one of the most important things along the entire process, right? If you think about it, they impact product design, product performance, timelines, budgets, regulatory risk, your quality system and how good it is in some ways. I feel people will try to just find hey, I need to find a vendor that can do this. And they view it as getting a cheeseburger, right? It's okay, I need to find a place that sells cheeseburgers. It's no. You need to find a place that has not just the capabilities listed on the website, right? Oh, they do injection molding. Great. Well, do they do complex injection molding? Do they do additional value add services and assembly? Do they have good material science? Because what you're trying to do from an overmold process is pretty unique, right? They don't think about it like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why innovation takes a long time. Because, I mean, talk to anybody that's ever had to go through kind of an early stage vendor switch, whether it's a design and development group or a CDMO, you end up burning a year or 2 years. Maybe you ordered tooling and you have to scrap the tooling. Doing the switch to another vendor takes another 6 months at least. A lot of the times there's additional cost if you have to do manufacturing transfer or even just ship tools. So I feel people really, that's one of the biggest things too. The XO piece, with the training and the tools and a lot of that stuff is more around just good business operations and kind of innovation operations, if you will, doing the customer discovery, all that stuff. But with MedTech vendors, what we're trying to do is basically say hey, here's your project, here's your device, here's what you need, right? Capability, services, expertise. Here's the stage that you are. right? Here's 12 to 20 to 30 or whatever, however many it is, options for you to go and engage. And you need to talk to, if it's a very critical supplier, you need to talk to 12 and try to get to 6 to 10, viable quotes, and not just look at the price. It's not just about cost of goods, right? And people zero in on that, right? But what size is the CDMO that you're working with? Does their size match what you need in terms of like how much attention you're going to be able to get, right? If they're working with $2 billion clients and their smallest clients, 50 million in revenue, and you're a startup that's pre-revenue, like you're not getting their best people. You're not getting their attention, right? Do they have the right expertise? Do they really understand your project? Do you have a good point person there? Was the communication, does your communication style mesh? You know what I mean? Like, is it a good fit for you? And you don't know that until you just talk to and engage and go through a little bit of the quote process, right? With these vendors. And so I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like you talk to anybody, it's like, oh, we had the wrong place and we burned a year and a half. And then we found this other group and they were great. It's like, can we cut that first year and a half out is kind of the goal here.
Yeah. I mean, I compare it to marriage. It's like you'll have to date a few people in order to know what you actually want. And I like to add to your list. It's like if you just have an injection molder and they're used to industry injection molding, do they have the quality mindset? Do they have the quality system in place? Do they have the medical mindset? Do they understand their implications on patient outcome if they fuck up? So it's going to be very, very crucial to get the right CDMO in place. And the evaluation should be like a marriage, because like getting into one is not that difficult. It's like there's one very, very spontaneous decision away. Yeah, we're going to do it. Send us a quote. It's okay. Let's lock that in. And then 1.5 years later, it's going to be expensive to get out of it. And first of all, like everybody's going to tell you, yes, we can do it. We can do everything. Like the honeymoon phase. You're just going to tell them what they like to hear. And then in the end, the reality is going to set in when you try to start production and it doesn't work. You have rejection rates that are off the charts and God forbid, like quality issues and that make it to the field. Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, you were talking about it, rejection rates, whatever. But like that's the type of stuff where it's like, if you don't really know how to speak, if you're a clinical innovator and you don't know how to speak that language on the manufacturing side, like you would never know to say like, hey, like what is your acceptable scrap rate with your medical projects right now? Your medical injection molding projects, like what do you shoot for? You know what I mean? And tell me about like your last audit. You know what I mean? Like there's just a million questions through that vendor discovery process that like, if you don't know to ask those questions, like you're just like, hey, can you make this? Send a quote. Okay, great. We'll look at the pricing, and that's all you care about, and that's just the wrong way to approach it.
Yeah, it's very, very, very similar to how to select material, because that is my business, how to select the right plastic for the medical application. And it's like this is a stolen anecdote, very, very rude of me to steal an anecdote, but I love it, and therefore I do it. It's like, that was a distributor of plastics and he got a call and he's like, I need a TP. And he says, yeah, okay, cool. What requirements do you have? And he's like, none of your business. Just give me the cheapest one. And I'm like, are you sure? Yes, I am sure. None of your business. Okay, I'll write that down. So he wrote it down. None of your business. Give me the cheapest one. Did that. Half a year later, he came back. Hey, by the way, I need the irritation test for that TP you sent me. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't have the irritation test. It cannot pass it. I was like, yeah, but why? And I was like, yeah, you said to me, just give me the cheapest one. And the cheapest one doesn't have like the irritation test. So now you have to change the material. You have to scrap the mold or adjust the mold. And that costs you a year of your whole project just because you didn't have the requirements down. What do you actually need? Because sometimes people know exactly what they need and then it's going to be good in the end. But sometimes you have people that want something done, but they have no clue how to get there and what they actually need to get there. And you need to guide them with a framework towards what they actually need and to give them the right questions to ask them. And this is very, very similar on what you do on the vendor side of what we do with our Great Match framework. We give people the right questions, the right requirements to ask from a plastic in order to get it done in the final device. Because changing a vendor and changing a material isn't that different in terms of cost and also time outcome, because it can cost you years and a lot of money.
And you know this too, like on the material side, like people don't think about this, but like a lot of the times like the MOQ for material is pretty large, and the lead times may be, weeks, sometimes months to get a new material in to even just test it, right? So the material you start with, like if you just kind of hand wave at it and you're like, oh yeah, we'll just try this one first. They may make an order and you may burn a couple $1,000s getting 50 pounds of material or 100 pounds of material, and it doesn't work. And then what do you do with that? But again, to your point on the vendor selection, right? Asking them like, hey, how many TPEs do you have in stock? What's the range of those? Have you overmolded this low durometer of, TPE before to PC-ABS substrates, right? Who are your distributors that you really like to work with? And what's their catalog of available materials look like? You know what I mean? But like, again, if you don't know to ask any of those questions, like when push comes to shove and you're having molding issues, especially if the group is not good at material science and you're like, hey, so what do you think's going wrong? And they're like, I don't know, you should change the design. Or you should just change materials. And then you're like, what materials would you recommend? I don't know. I'll ask my distributor. You know what I mean? And you're all of a sudden like, okay, now I guess you as a clinical innovator have to become a material science expert, right? Or find someone like yourself that can help, right?
That you just explained my business case pretty well. That was pretty spot on how it all goes. Like in the beginning, we're a startup. We don't want to spend money. And it's like, oh, we have this tool now and it doesn't work and we want to start up production. Please help us. I don't care what it costs.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
like prevention is better than the cure, just as it is. It's like prevent problems instead of correcting them afterwards. I think this is a key takeaway from how to get products faster to markets. Don't make mistakes. The point of the iterative and getting prototypes and information to the relevant stakeholders as fast as possible so that you can correct is that so that the mistakes are kept small, because in a short amount of time you can only make this much of a big mistake because you're not as deep down into the drain as you could have been, and therefore keep correcting small mistakes instead of making one big one and then having to correct it for a year. Yeah. And I mean, another thing that you're passionate about and that we should probably also talk about is how AI can facilitate all of this. I know there's a lot of hype on AI and what it can and cannot do. So there are the people who are like, yeah, in a year we're all going to be jobless because the AI is going to take over everything. And then there's like, yeah, but if I ask it to add up that count the S's in Mississippi, gets it wrong or something like that. So what's your take on that? Where is it the right tool? Where can it help? And how can we accelerate with AI the development of medical devices?
Yeah, no, great question. A lot of people view like if AI is going to be useful for their business or something or not. Can it replace people? You know what I mean? Like, can it replace, I want it to do this huge thing for me, right? I want to completely automate this entire huge, big part of my business or process, or like allow me to like cut 20% of my employees, whatever. That's not what it is now. And I frankly think it's like a long time before it gets to that point, a relatively long time. But like the way I see AI being most useful, I would say broadly, but also specific to like healthcare, both in the patient care setting, but like in innovation and contract manufacturing and whatnot, are these like really small wins that it may save an hour here, right? And an hour here and 30 minutes here and 15 minutes here. But like when you start to use it in concert, and especially if you have good data hygiene, those wins compound and you start to stack these, all this. If you're saving an hour per week with AI, like at the end of the year, you've just saved an absolute ton of time. You know what I mean? And there are things where it can deliver massive, massive efficiencies. But especially for the people that are like not heavy AI users, or maybe they have low AI literacy, I think like it's about stacking those small wins. I think MedTech is perfectly suited for implementation of AI to really accelerate the speed of innovation because it's very rules-based. There's design and development frameworks, there's guidance documents, there's testing protocols and regimes with sample sizes, so on and so forth, right? And AI works really well in a high structure, rule-based environment, right? So the other day I was talking to a contract manufacturer and they were saying like, we were talking about a manufacturing transfer and they were costing it out and there was this big line item and I was like, what's this line item? And they were like, oh, well, we have to translate your quality documentation over into our version and into our quality system and then release it as part of the manufacturing transfer. And I was like, can you tell me more about that? They're like, yeah, we have to pay a technical writer, 100 something an hour to just do this translation. And I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, we could build, I could build you a tool in a week that did that for you. You know what I mean? That took your template QMS, right? And you would intake docs, and it would analyze and read, and then restructure and format and redraft in your quality document, for you to review, maybe edit, but then approve. And they're like, mind was blown. They're like, oh, I didn't know it could do that, blah, blah, blah. But like, that's just an example of like one quality-based win. There's like inspection, right? First article inspections, or like as things are coming off the line, using like vision inspection for that. But then just a whole host of things. Like, honestly, it's hard to even say like if there's one thing, because it's just a sea of small things in my mind where you can really leverage AI and quoting process, engineering, communication, some of the back office operational stuff around, invoicing. But both on the innovator side and the CDMO side, I think they've got to do it. And one final point here. I do think there's a little bit, like, one of the reasons why AI has not been as heavily adopted in the MedTech world, both by the innovators and the device manufacturers, are like the people that are working in these organizations are like very like hardware, physical environment, mechanical driven. And that could either be melting plastic, right, on the contract manufacturing side, or, veins and arteries and cells on the innovator side, right? And so typically they're not, in my experience, like hyper tech savvy people, right, on either side, right? Like if you've ever, work with physicians enough, it's like, hey, can you open this PDF sometimes, right? And these are brilliant surgeons, and they're just technically are not super tech savvy. And then on the contract manufacturer side, we've seen a relatively low baseline level of AI literacy or even technical savvy as well. So I think just kind of being so ingrained in the physical world, like they could tell you the yield strength and modulus of a bunch of different materials, but if you ask them to like do anything from like an AI or technical standpoint, they may struggle. So I think that inherent physical world nature of their work and kind of lack of like baseline technical savvy has caused like a lack of baseline AI literacy, and ultimately like almost like a hesitancy or a slowness in terms of the adoption curve of AI.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I don't think that all MedTech companies work like that, especially if you're talking about like devices, like everything that is running on power. So if you think a ventilator or whatever, like most of it and most of the benefit and most of the, let's say, key differentiators are on the software side. So those are software people. They are very likely to be AI savvy. And I mean, yeah, the physical product, the injection molders, maybe, yeah. But I don't know if, I mean, there are a bunch of companies who do like process optimization with AI, and we already had some of those on the podcast. I'm going to have one on development of medical devices and how to use LLMs and AI in these processes, especially how to translate regulatory requirements into like concrete product requirements. So there are these regulations. Please tell me now what my product has to do. What are the key points that I actually have to test? And now how to develop a medical device using AI. But I think the biggest bang for your buck is like what we do all day, documentation. It's like we just had Carl Larson on, and he said 50% of the time that a medical device development team spends is spent documenting. And this is just like, because you're typing stuff into Word and Excel, and like is this whole, not to be rude, but his whole shtick is like we have databases that have these requirements that are completely separate from the documentation. So you just change the requirement and it changes all the documentation instead of like changing 15 different Excels. But like writing documentation or updating documentation or reading documentation, that is where LLMs really are strong, because they're very good at reading and generating text. It's like if it is something about the physical world, it just knows what the internet says or the training data says there. And lots and lots of knowledge is proprietary, therefore not in the training of the models, but like speaking language and documentation, that is where it's good at. So if you have to document something, so a very, very real use case for in the healthcare sector, a physician, they have to write reports. So what they do is, or what they can do is, like most of them probably don't, but this is where it can really help you save so much time. It's like they just speak into a mic and tell it what the patient has, or they just record the conversation with the patient and they have a fully structured report in well-written English. And they would do that at their evenings when they could be spending the time with their family or could be like seeing other patients. But what do? They write reports. And this is a very strong use of AI. It's like these repetitive documenting tasks where you have to write reports that you write every day and that are just boring to write. You can get AI to write those very, very fast and very, very accurate. It's like if you have to make it like prediction of the future or measure a market size of a medical device or develop a strategy for your medical device, it's just like, nah, it's not going to be as accurate. But documenting, this is where you lose every time against it. Or like in terms of efficiency, you as a human lose against an AI.
I totally agree. I mean, like if I was a quality person, I would be like figuring out ways to use it left and right. And I do work on quality stuff and I do use it on that. But yeah, to your point about that language, the kind of text-based language piece, I totally agree. Like, and in MedTech vendors, in the AI agent, so like once it understands what you're building, the type of device, and then like the FDA product code, like you can ask it, hey, like what biologic testing will I need to do, right? What ASTM and mechanical testing will I need to do for this specific thing? And it will go and find the FDA guidance and find predicate devices and look at their testing summary tables, and it'll spit you out like, hey, yeah, you need to do ISO 10993 biocomp. You know, you probably need to do cytotox sensitization and irritation, right? Like it will provide those things, and other models could provide those as well. We've kind of trained it to do it a lot like easier and quicker and kind of like pull the threads on that information from you directly. But I use AI all the time for small things, big things, etc. And like when I meet people that are not using it at all, I am like, what are you doing? To me, it's like people that were using typewriters and then computers came out. It's that big of a leap to me.
I think there are certain jobs that are going to get extinct because of AI, and it's like everything that is data entry. So what I used to do is like when I do an evaluation on a material, I would go ahead and search for data sheets. And then these data sheets are usually PDFs. And then what you would do is like you would translate that in a comparison table because you want to compare all your materials and you don't have that in a structured way. So what I would now do is like I upload the 5 to 10 PDFs to an LLM and then tell it, these are the properties I'm looking for. Please select this. And this is an hour of work and it does it in 2 minutes. And it's very accurate. Sometimes it is like the same problems you would run into. It's like if the units do not match up, if the testing method doesn't match up. So we'll add notes in there, and you'll have to figure out like the 5% where it's like where you really need like human intelligence in order to get it and understand it. But it's so much time saved. It's like the repetitive tasks.
You hit on something there. It's like really, really key. You should never expect AI to do the whole thing for you. Like the goal is to like do the grunt work 80%, the first grunt work 80, or like you do the first 5%, right? And then it takes it the rest of the way to the 80% mark, right? And then you are the human in the loop with your expertise that you do the final 20%. You read it all, you review it, you edit it, you tweak it, etc., and then finalize it. But like, I think a lot of people are expecting it to just do it for them. And the final product coming out of AI is going to be the final product, and it's not it. You know, acceleration of the middle, 75, 80%. But that's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I have a probably also mean comparison. I treat it as a very fast, intelligent intern who has no clue about what you do or what your industry does.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like if you have an intern, you just double check everything they do. Because, it's like you wouldn't let your intern write your technical documentation and submit it to the FDA. You won't do that. But for some reason, you think it's a good idea to make ChatGPT do it. And that is not a good idea because sometimes it runs into this. It's like, I call it the student mode. Like, when you were in university and there was a test and you didn't know the answer, you just bullshit and hope you get points. And this is exactly what AI hallucinations are. It's like they're not hallucinations. They're like artifact of how we test it. It's like if I try to bullshit, I might get half points. And I do not get points deducted for not being accurate and not only telling the truth. Because like if you have an employee, you would like to have them say, hey, this goes beyond my expertise. I cannot answer you. But if you have an AI, it's like you give it points for sounding as plausible as possible. And That is basically what an LLM is. It's like giving you the most plausible answer with some sort of variation. And what you can use it for very, very accurately is you can give it regulations, because like European regulations are basically unreadable. It's 190, 200 pages of lawyer English. It's complete legalese. And like, if you want to read through that, you'll fall asleep 3 times. It's like, you can't do it. Like, even if you want to. So what you do is you give it the regulation, or you just give it the link to the regulation, because it's all uploaded and PDFs. And you say, hey, I have this question. Because usually you have a question that you need to be answered. So what do I need to do? Do I need to like mark my product? I have this labeling question. I have material selection. Can I really use recycled plastics in medical technology? Whatever question you have. And then you tell it, okay, like this regulation, I would like to know the implications that I have on XYZ, my question, and then give me the full text and where to look at. Because the full text is everything that is legally binding. And you'll have to go and read the full text, but finding where I need to read the full text, because I don't want to read the 200 pages. I want to read the exact article that is relevant for what I do. And this is what I use it a lot for. It's like finding the right place to look at the full text.
No, 100%. My final point on this is just like, I think a lot of people will try to use AI and they are not doing a good job with their prompt engineering and how they're communicating with the AI or the context that they're giving it. And they kind of just like burn out quickly. So like, I think understanding prompt engineering, context, I think even understanding like the different models and what they're good at, and like when new models are released and kind of staying up to date on like what these models are good at, what they're not good at, et cetera, is also important. But I think like that prompt engineering piece is like really big, because like it's garbage in, garbage out. It is, you know, a communication style that is very unique, and like you really just do have to like trial and error, hone your craft, do research on good prompt engineering techniques. And like literally every time a new model comes out, there's a guy that I follow that I'll go check in. And, you know, he tests these models like rigorously, and he'll be like, hey, like this is how Gemini's 3.0, you need to work with it. Like instead of like ChatGPT loves to get really specific instructions right at the front, right? With Gemini, it loves when you load it up with context first, and then the final stanza, if you will, is the instructions and the output format, right? So but just like knowing that stuff, like it does take a lot of intentionality and a bit of time, but it's really important to kind of like getting the most out of it.
I mean, prompt engineering, like having certain frameworks of how to get out of your AI what you want to hear or what you want it to do, is maybe one part of the solution. I have found that people use LLMs as they use Google, and this is a mistake. Like my framework of using it, I always have the mic on. It's like I use the speech to text, which gives you a lot more context to work with. And you just give it as much context as you want, and you explain it as you would with an employee. Like, hey, we're going to have this meeting. I want this for you. This is important because we are trying to do this and that. And this is like the evaluation or the presentation or the regulatory question that we want to answer. And then you talk to it as if it was like your intern. And then it gives you a wall of text, which you wouldn't be able to write because it just takes too long, but you can speak much faster than you can write. And then what you do is you give it that, and then you hone in the question. What I found is that you tend to get bloated answers, because usually if I tell it, go make a slide, it's like, that will never fit into a slide. It's like, and then you say, just make it concise. And then it hones it down. And then what do you tell it to? Okay, now go fact check what you did there. Because that is also a very, very useful tool. You tell it to fact check itself, because it sometimes bullshits, and then it goes search the internet and sees that, oh, actually that wasn't very accurate what I did there.
I'll take the output from one LLM and then plug it into another one, right? Or ask the same question of 2 of them and then compare the answers. And like, yeah, but I love that. Love the text to speech. I use a tool called Better Dictation, and I use it all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the built-in ones are also not that bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole point of it is like generating the output or generating the text isn't the biggest part anymore. The biggest part is making sure it's accurate. It's like checking that or verifying, validating that it actually works. That is like the biggest task you have. And therefore, it's like, it's not that an expert, like if I ask it for some plastic suggestions, it will be 80% of the time, it will be like, good. And I was like, yeah, completely left field. I was like, I have no clue how you got to this. It's like, this is just guesswork. It will never work because of X, Y, Z. It's like, and people, if they say, yeah, I could replace you with an LLM, say, yeah, but you'll never know which are the 20% where it's bullshitting. And yeah, it will get better over time, but like validating that it's actually doing what you want it to do and directing it into the right direction and also asking the right questions. This was like plugging back into what we had before. You actually need to know and to have a framework what you actually need to ask in order to get the right question. And then this can really, really help you.
Just want to double tap on like it's not like you're writing someone an email. Like you can just like stream of consciousness communicate with it, right? So I think that's like very important for people to understand. But also too, like I think both Claude and ChatGPT now, like they can edit an Excel document and then like give you an updated Excel document to download. Like it can work in different file formats and structures. It can give you markdown files, write code, of course, all of it, right? So I think people are also like still stuck in this like, oh, I ask it a text question, I get a text answer. It can make SVG graphics. It can do so much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, with Excel and with PowerPoint, it's not as potent as it is with text. That's just a disclaimer.
Of course not. But it will write formulas for you. Like yes. In the Excel document now. I was impressed with Claude's ability to go into Excel documents, edit formulas, double check things. I was pretty impressed. It just now recently hit that point for me because I had tried it before and I was like, this is horrible.
It's very interesting. Like you can ask it to condense a presentation down to like from 120 slides to 20 minutes. It's like it gets you down to 115 slides, and I'm like, yeah, funny, you're funny. So it doesn't have like that human context to it. It's like if I ask my intern to give me a presentation out of 120 slides that is 20 minutes, I'll get 20 slides because like you have the human context. It's like 1 slide per minute. Probably I'm gonna have 20 slides, not more, because else it's not gonna work. Yeah. But anyways, shifting a little towards the more personal part. So you're a serial entrepreneur. You have founded a lot of companies. You might walk us through that in a very, very fast pace. And then like the question is, what keeps you motivated to keep innovating?
I'll just go quickly through kind of like my entrepreneurial story. So I registered nurse by trade. I thought I was going to go to anesthesia school and do anesthesia, but ended up when I was working at the bedside, patenting some devices in the vascular access space, really leveraged some accelerator programs to kind of get that training that I didn't get in school, kind of the entrepreneur lean startup methodology, as well as I did a medical device specific accelerator called 0 to 510 in Memphis. And that kind of got my start and seed funding there. But then from there, like, 7.5 years at my first startup, raised 10 million in venture capital, angel capital, took a device from idea through class 2 de novo clearance, got FDA clearance. We just got CE mark for that device as well. Launched it in the vet space, really, really learned a ton and did a bunch of different things, but, left there and then, joined up. I started running a laparoscopic surgical device company in the, minimally invasive surgery space, some class 1, class 2 devices. And then, around that time, this was like 2022, started kind of working on MedTech on the side and then MedTech vendors. And I've done another kind of part of what I don't do it as much anymore, but some consulting work in, spine and orthopedic hip and, even some consumer packaged goods products that aren't regulated medical devices, but you still need injection molding. You still need all of these different product design and development controls and things. So that's kind of my story, my journey from that side. What keeps me motivated to keep innovating? I honestly love building things and I love solving problems. And so that problem solving can be solving a clinical problem, right? But within that, you're solving problems from a technical perspective, right? Like how do we get these gears to rotate with at least 3.5 foot-pounds of torque and fit in a 8mm by 10mm form factor. You know what I mean? So I love the engineer. I'm not an engineer, but I love the engineering challenges and working with engineering teams. I love building things. I love solving problems. And I truly believe in like the mission of like, we've got to make, like you said, healthcare more sustainable. And I think a big part of that is the materials. And I think a big part of that is how we're designing devices and the use of those devices and systems to not only reduce waste, but provide better patient care and overall reduce the cost of care. And very passionate about that. And I'm also passionate about technology playing a role in that. You know what I mean? Like we have like the administrative bloat in healthcare in the US is one of the biggest reasons why we've had skyrocketing costs, right? Like compared to the number of physicians, the number of administrative staff in hospitals has like 10x'd the growth of physicians. Why? And I think you could blame insurance on things, and I won't get into that. But what keeps me motivated? I really enjoy this work. I love it. I want to work with and empower entrepreneurs that are trying to solve real problems that are going to impact patients' lives. People say like, oh, no one likes their job. I love what I do. I am like stoked to get up every day and get to build medical devices and help people raise money or help people validate concepts or help people find the right manufacturing partner that's going to take them kind of to the promised land. So I truly love what I do. I view it as a blessing that I get to do this and help people and meet amazing people like you, Lucas, right? Like I randomly, I think, hit you up and was like, hey, would love if you could help me with this thing, right? But I love the work. I love the people. And it's just, I can't imagine myself doing anything else, to be honest.
MedTech is a very great space to be in. It's like people are usually very helpful. And it's like the meaning that you get that it's like your devices that you do is like they actually improve people's lives. It's like they actually help solve a health issue. And you know how it is when you have bad health and you have a health issue, it really helps solve that. And I think that gives a lot of meaning to our work.
Yeah. And one other small point, we were hitting on this the whole time, but like part of that problem solving for me is like, I really am have been frustrated with the way that we do things in MedTech innovation and the culture of being so close to the chest and not talking about what you're working on and being scared to share with anybody and scared to share challenges or vulnerabilities or issues that you're having. And so like part of what we're trying to do with Exo MedTech and MedTech vendors is like break through that hyper siloed, isolated, close to the chest culture that I think exists in medical devices and MedTech and try to bring it more into an environment that's similar to like tech and design where people are building in the open, they're sharing how they're doing things. There's a lot of just public knowledge transfer, which really catalyzes a lot more innovation a lot more quickly because I feel like in MedTech, it's like, well, how can I make money off this? Or like, who's going to steal it? And it's like, if you think someone's going to just drop everything they're doing, invest their own money to try to steal your device that you've got a patent filed for and beat you to market on it, like it's a pipe dream. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And I just wish people would understand that like talking to people, asking for help is good, right? Sharing that you're having a challenge is good. It's helpful. It helps you and it's just healthy. You know what I mean? That's one thing we're trying to do is break down that culture and change kind of, systemically how we're doing innovation and solve that problem.
I think I have 2 talking points there, right there. So number one is try get your competitors to steal your idea. Try to do it. Send them an email. And like, I've been doing cold outreach. So try to get people to answer you. Try to do that. It's like you can hit up a big competitor at like a multinational, send them your idea, send them your patent file. They won't read it. It's like 100%. If you can get them to steal your idea, it's like you've done it. It's like there's no way in hell. And secondly, is like the amount of people that I ask for a podcast that say no. So of those who reject to come on the podcast, it's 10-1. Reason how I don't feel comfortable talking about this is 1. And 10 is like, oh no, my communications or my legal team doesn't allow me to. It's 10-1. It's 10-1. It's really crazy. It's like people would love to go and tell their stories and share insights, but their legal is whatever. I am not allowed to speak for X company. I can't. Sometimes it's ridiculous to me.
It's ridiculous to me. I don't understand it. Or like people will ask me for like a mentor call and they'll be like, okay, can you sign this NDA first? And I'm like, okay. Or like, sometimes I'll be like, hey, I'm like, or we'll join a call and they're like, well, I can't really talk about this because we don't have an NDA. And I'm like, if you can't talk about it, there's no reason in continuing this call. Because like, if you think I took time out of my day to help you and I'm going to steal what you're working on, like it's just, it's like you said, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, working with the big companies, like they're very comfortable and they have their process, and you need to sign an NDA and all of that. It's like, I get it. I get it, but it's like, if you want to like talk over dinner and we need to sign an NDA, go on.
If you're going to tell me enough about what you're doing that I could go and steal it and recreate it, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you think us having like a high level conversation, I'm going to be like, okay, now I've got it. I'm going to go drop everything I'm doing and go invest in this thing. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah. No, very good. Very good. Okay. So Spencer, what would be your advice towards our listeners in terms of speeding up the rate of innovation in MedTech?
I would say, like, do the work. You know what I mean? Just do the work. You may be an expert. You may be an incredible mechanical engineer. You may be an incredible physician or clinician, but invest in the training and the resources and what it's going to take to make you the glue guy, right? Glue guy or glue girl. Learn the engineering and manufacturing processes, understand quality management systems, understand the commercial strategy and the payers and the reimbursement landscape and how this thing's going to be sold. Because like, there's no one that's going to do it for you. And even if they do it for you, it's not going to be as good as doing it yourself. And it's not going to be as rewarding, right? So control your own destiny, do the work, like dig into it. And I would say leverage tools like MedTech and MedTech vendors to like help you do it along the way. You know, share what you're working on, try to build a network, talk to customers, you know, just like it's, you know, there's a saying, it's not easy, but it is simple, right? And I think people don't want to do the work. They want to try to find someone to do it for them, or they think it's just going to be really, really easy. And so understand it's going to be hard, put in the time, you know, identify the resources and the people and the things that can help, the tools that can help you do it, and just put in the work. I think if you do all of that, you're going to be so much better off in terms of like increasing your speed to market. But if you're trying to just do it in a silo with, you know, limited knowledge, it's going to take you're never going to do it, or if it's going to take way longer. So that'd be my advice, is just like really commit to it, do the work, and find the right people and the right tools and the right communities to help you do it.
Yes. And if you don't ask, it's a definite no. It's like the only way to get the definite no is not asking.
There's a Wayne Gretzky quote about that, right? Like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yes. It's exactly as it is. Because if you ask people, it's like, hey, can we hop on a call for an hour and talk about this and just like let me pick your brain? It's like, sometimes people just gonna ignore you. Sometimes people are gonna like say, hey, sorry, I don't have the time, which by the way is no. It's just a not now. It's like, come back later. And some people just say yes, and they give time and their expertise for free to you. And there's also resources out there. I hope to imagine my podcast will be one of them, where you can listen to experts and sharing their thoughts on and expertise on certain topics.
I think like, don't be transactional, especially when you're trying to innovate. Don't be transactional, right? Try to add value, try to give value, you know, to people. And then like, as you're progressing in your career, give back, right? Like, give back that value. I feel like MedTech can be a very transactional place where it's like, you know, what's in it for me? And it's really bad. But the last thing here too is, you know, if you are passionate about something, right? Whether you've got a clinical innovation right now, or you want to innovate, or you're building your company or product or whatever, try to create content that adds value and put it out into the world, right? This could be a blog. This could be a LinkedIn post every 2 weeks. It doesn't matter what it is. But try to work that muscle of your expertise and learn more, and then communicate those learnings in a way that adds value to your audience, right? Because if you do that, you will build trust, you'll build a following, you'll build a network, and you'll build authority in the space. And all of that is helpful when you're doing innovation. So I can't recommend that enough, right? It's just like, try to do research and generate content, or make an infographic, or write an article, and like, don't use AI, like, don't post AI slop. That's not what I'm saying. Like, do the work, invest in it, find really key insights and interesting things that are valuable to people, and then post it. And you will build an affinity with people that you've never met online if you do that, and you'll grow personally from it as well.
Yeah. I mean, learn to think, even in the space or in the time of AI, learn to think for yourself and learn to critically think and analyze. I think conversations are one of the key tools that I get insights from. And I think this is partly why I still do the podcast. I think we've produced over, what is it now? Like 80 episodes, like 50 in German and and 30 in English now, is a key way of learning, like exchange with people. And I think authentic conversation can do that. Good. So Spencer, do you have any last words?
No, I just really am very appreciative for you having me on the pod and letting me tell people about XO MedTech and medtechvendors.com. But I think what you're doing is not even like the pod's great, but I think what you're doing, like your core business and like is really valuable and really needed. I've seen it countless times. People make mistakes around materials as well as the mission of making healthcare more sustainable. Like it's really awesome. And I hope people that are, starting material projects or trying to, they have projects going and they want to have more sustainable materials that are still, really high performance or even better performing. I hope they reach out to you because like I had a call with you about it and it was like very enlightening and eye-opening and you're like a true master of your craft. So I just want to say thanks. And then I hope people, reach out and engage with you about it because you're awesome at what you do.
Okay, thank you very much. So this was Spencer Jones from XO MedTech and MedTech Vendors. And until the next time.